Jade and Malik Jackson slump in cramped economy seats on a packed red-eye flight from Atlanta to Los Angeles, their faces burning with shame after Brenda Harris, a smug flight attendant, loudly booted them from first class, sneering they didn't belong. Unbeknownst to her, their father Calvin Jackson owns Apex Airlines and he's already on the phone, voice cold, promising payback. A simple slight ignites a racial firestorm, forever scarring their lives and hers. What unleashed hell awaits them all? Before we dive in, tell us where you're watching from today, and if you stand for justice against prejudice, hit like and subscribe for more gripping tales. Jade Jackson, 17, with her sharp eyes and quick wit, stepped onto the gleaming Apex Airlines jet at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. Her younger brother Malik, 15, trailing close behind, his lanky frame buzzing with nervous energy. The siblings were electric with pride, clutching first-class tickets their father, Calvin Jackson, had gifted them for crushing their school year. Jade with straight A's in honors classes, Malik topping his math league. They'd never flown anything but economy, squeezed into narrow seats with crying babies and stale air, so this was a big deal. Jade wore a crisp white blouse and jeans, her braids pulled into a neat bun, while Malik rocked a hoodie and sneakers, his backpack slung over one shoulder. They found their seats, 2A and 2B, in the plush first-class cabin, all wide leather and soft lighting, a world apart from the chaos further back. Jade grinned, snapping a selfie with Malik, who leaned in, flashing a goofy smile, his braces catching the glow. "This is dope," he said, voice low, like he couldn't believe it. She nodded, stowing her small backpack under the seat, then reached over to help him buckle his seatbelt, her big sister instincts kicking in. "Dad really came through," she murmured, settling back, the cushion hugging her spine. Malik pressed his face to the window, watching other planes crawl across the tarmac, their engines humming faintly through the thick glass, his brown eyes wide with awe. "Look at that one, Jade. Bet it's going somewhere crazy." She smiled, softly, pulling a worn paperback from her bag, flipping through pages she'd already memorized, savoring the quiet before takeoff. The cabin filled slowly, passengers shuffling in, some in suits, others in casual gear, all nodding politely as they stowed carry-ons. Then came Brenda Harris, a 30-year veteran flight attendant, striding down the aisle like she owned the place. Her uniform was pristine, navy blazer pressed to perfection, her blonde hair pinned tight, but her pinched smile didn't reach her pale blue eyes. She'd been with Apex since it was a scrappy startup, back when Calvin was just a name on a payroll. She barely noticed. Now, she carried herself with the swagger of someone who'd seen it all, checking tickets with a flick of her wrist, offering clipped hellos to the mostly white, well-heeled crowd. She paused by a businessman in 1C, chatting about the weather, her tone syrupy, then moved on, her gaze sweeping the cabin. When it landed on Jade and Malik, that fake warmth vanished fast. Her lips tightened, eyes narrowing into slits, like she'd caught a glitch in her perfect little world. She glanced around, as if expecting someone older, richer, whiter to claim those seats, then squared her shoulders and marched over, her heels clicking sharp against the floor. Jade felt the shift before Brenda even spoke, a prickle up her neck, but she kept her nose in her book, hoping it'd pass. Malik didn't notice, still glued to the window, muttering about a jet's paint job. Brenda stopped beside Jade's seat, looming over them, and cleared her throat loud enough to turn heads, 3 rows back. "You sure you're in the right place?" she snapped, her voice cutting through the hum of boarding chatter, sharp and accusing. Jade's head jerked up, her bookmark slipping to the floor, surprise flashing across her face. She blinked, processing the tone, then reached into her pocket, pulling out their boarding passes, her fingers steady despite the sudden heat in her chest. "Yes, ma'am. Seats 2A and 2B, she said, soft but firm, handing them over. Brenda snatched the tickets, her manicured nails brushing Jade's skin, and squinted at them, her frown deepening, like she was hunting for a forgery. She flipped them over, then back, her lips pursing tighter with every second. Malik turned from the window, catching the vibe, his grin fading. "What's her deal?" he whispered, barely audible. Jade shot him a look, "Stay cool," and kept her eyes on Brenda, who finally shoved the passes back, her grip rough enough to crinkle the edges. "These are first-class seats," Brenda said, louder now, her words dripping with doubt. "And I don't see your parents. Are they flying with you?" Jade shook her head, keeping her voice even, though her pulse ticked up. "No, ma'am. We're traveling alone today." She felt Malik shift beside her, his knee bouncing, confusion creeping into his posture. Brenda straightened, planting, her hands on her hips, her shadow swallowing their space. "Well, I'm afraid there's some mix-up. First class is expensive, reserved for specific passengers. I need to double-check this," she announced, her volume spiking, making sure every ear in the cabin caught it. Heads turned, eyes locked on, some curious, others smirking, a few uncomfortable but silent. Jade's cheeks burned, the weight of those stares pressing in, but she swallowed it down, refusing to flinch. "Our tickets are legit," she said, louder this time, holding Brenda's gaze. The woman didn't budge, just smirked, a thin, nasty curve of her lips, and spun on her, heel marching toward the front, her steps clipped and confident, leaving a wake of whispers. Malik leaned in, his voice tight. "Why's she acting like we stole something?" Jade touched his hand, a quick squeeze, her calm a mask over the storm brewing inside. "She's just wrong, that's all. It'll sort out." But her gut twisted, sensing this wasn't over. Brenda returned minutes later, her face a mask of cold triumph, her posture screaming authority. "Listen up," she barked, loud enough to hush the cabin. "There's been a mistake. These seats are for first-class passengers, and you two need to move to economy right now." The words hit like a slap, sharp and public, drawing gasps and murmurs from the rows around them. Jade's heart sank, a hollow thud in her chest while Malik's eyes darted, his excitement replaced by a flush of shame. "But we have first-class tickets," Jade said, pulling them out again, her voice trembling just a hair. "Our dad booked these for us." Brenda barely glanced at the passes, waving them off like they were trash. "Tickets get messed up, especially with kids flying alone. Maybe your dad got confused. Economy's in the back, and you're holding up boarding." Her tone was final, impatient, slicing through Jade's protest. Passengers muttered, some avoiding eye contact, others watching like it was a show. Jade felt the heat crawl up her neck, humiliation sinking deep, but she bit her lip, holding it together for Malik, who looked ready to shrink into his seat. "Come on," she murmured, standing slow, signaling him to follow. He grabbed his backpack, shoulders hunched, and they shuffled down the aisle. Dozens of eyes tracking them, some pitying, some smug. Brenda stood aside, arms crossed, her satisfaction plain as day, like she'd just fixed a glitch in her perfect order. Jade fought the sting in her eyes, refusing to let it spill, her jaw tight as they reached the back, finding 2 empty seats. By the rattling engines, the air thick with sweat and cheap cologne, Malik slumped beside her, staring at his sneakers, his voice a whisper. "Why'd she make us leave? Did we do something wrong?" Jade shook her head, her throat tight, pulling out her phone with shaky hands. "No, she's the one who's wrong." She typed fast, a message to their dad. "Dad, they kicked us out of first class. Flight attendant didn't believe our tickets. We're in economy now." She hit send, her breath shallow, not knowing how bad this was about to get. Brenda, up front, smoothed her blazer, gliding through her duties with a practiced smile, greeting other passengers like nothing happened, her world intact. Jade stared at her phone, waiting, the hum of the plane vibrating through her bones, a quiet fury building. Malik fidgeted, his trust shaken, and Jade knew this wasn't just about seats anymore. Something bigger was coming, something they couldn't see yet, and it started with Brenda's smug little victory. Calvin Jackson sat in his sprawling Los Angeles penthouse, 50 floors above the city's glittering sprawl, the Pacific shimmering faintly under a late afternoon sun. At 48, he was a force, a black man who'd clawed Apex Airlines, from a single rickety plane to a fleet dominating the skies, his broad shoulders filling out a tailored suit, his close-cropped beard flecked with gray. He was mid-meeting, hashing out a merger with a room full of suits, when his phone buzzed, Jade's name flashing. He excused himself, stepping to the floor-to-ceiling windows, expecting a quick check-in from his kids. Instead, her text hit him, like a freight train. "Dad, they kicked us out of first class. Flight attendant didn't believe our tickets. We're in economy now." His calm cracked, a vein pulsing in his temple, his dark eyes narrowing to slits. His kids, his blood, humiliated on his own damn airline? For what? He reread it, each word a spark igniting a fire he hadn't felt since the days he fought off racist loan officers to build Apex. He clenched his fist, the city blurring beyond the glass, then tapped his phone, dialing the cockpit of Flight 927, his voice low and lethal when the captain picked up. "Get me Brenda Harris now. I don't care if she's pouring coffee or kissing ass, you put her on." The captain, a grizzled vet named Daniels, stammered, "Yes, sir," sensing the storm brewing. Mid-flight, 30,000 feet over Alabama, Daniels' voice crackled over the intercom, summoning Brenda to the cockpit. She strutted in, her navy blazer crisp, expecting a pat on the back for keeping the cabin in line. The co-pilot handed her the headset, and she adjusted it with a smirk. "This is Brenda." Then Calvin's face filled the small screen beside the controls, live from Los Angeles, his jaw tight, eyes blazing like twin coals. "You just humiliated my children," he said, each syllable a blade. Brenda blinked, her smirk faltering, confusion flickering across her pinched features. "Your children?" she muttered, then recovered, squaring her shoulders. "Sir, they didn't look like first-class material. I was doing my job." The words hung there, bold and ugly, and Calvin's silence was a thunderclap. He leaned closer to the camera, his voice dropping to a growl. "Your job? Your job is to check tickets, not play gatekeeper with your little prejudices. Those are my kids, Jade and Malik Jackson, and you're gonna march back there, apologize loud enough for everyone to hear, and put them back in their seats. Now." Brenda's face flushed, a mix of shock and defiance, but she couldn't argue with the man whose name was stamped on her paycheck. "Yes, sir," she hissed, yanking off the headset, her hands trembling as she smoothed her hair, pride warring with panic. She stormed out of the cockpit, heels stabbing the floor, her mind racing. How was she supposed to know? They didn't look the part. Two black teens in casual clothes, no parents, no flash. She'd been right to question them, hadn't she? But Calvin's voice echoed, undeniable, and she knew she had no choice. Back in the economy section, Jade sat rigid beside Malik, her phone still dark, no reply from Dad yet. Malik fidgeted, picking at his hoodie strings, his voice small. "She's not gonna get away with that, right?" Jade nodded, forcing confidence she didn't feel. "Dad'll fix it." The plane hummed around them, a low drone over the chatter of passengers pretending not to stare. Then Brenda appeared, her silhouette cutting through the dim light, her face a mask of barely contained fury. She stopped by their seats, her throat clearing loud enough to hush the nearby rows. "Miss Jackson, Master Jackson," she started, her voice tight, loud, carrying over the engine's rumble. "I owe you an apology. There was no issue with your tickets. I made a mistake. Please, come back to first class." The words were stiff, robotic, her eyes darting anywhere but their faces. Jade studied her, catching the flicker of resentment behind the forced humility, but she stood slow, nudging Malik. "Let's go." He grabbed his bag, head low, still stinging from the earlier walk of shame. The cabin buzzed as they followed Brenda up the aisle, passengers whispering, some craning necks, others tapping phones, recording the reversal. A white guy in a polo muttered, "Must be nice to have connections," his tone sour, while a woman in pearls offered Jade a tight smile like she'd earned it. Brenda led them to 2A and 2B, stepping aside with a curt nod, her lips a thin line. Jade sank into the leather, Malik beside her, and for a moment, they thought it was over. The seats felt good, the space theirs again. A small wind snatched back from Brenda's claws. Malik exhaled. That was wild. Jade nodded, but her gut twisted, a nagging itch telling her this wasn't the end. Brenda hadn't looked sorry. Not really. Up front, Brenda poured coffee for a businessman, her hands steady now, her smile back in place like she'd wiped the slate clean. She avoided their row, gliding past with practiced grace, but her mind churned. Calvin's kids? Fine. She'd bowed this time, but the sting of being called out, of losing face festered deep. She'd worked too hard, too long to let some rich guy's brats unravel her authority. In Los Angeles, Calvin hung up, his chest tight, fury simmering. He'd fixed it, sure, but the fact it happened at all, on his watch, gnawed at him. His kids shouldn't have to prove they belong, not anywhere, least of all on his airline. He paced the penthouse, the merger forgotten, his team watching in silence. Jade and Malik were safe, back where they belonged, but safe wasn't enough. Not when someone like Brenda could look at them and see less. He'd deal with her, personally, once that plane touched down. For now, he let them fly, thinking the worst was behind them. But Brenda's forced apology wasn't surrender, it was a spark, and the fire it had light was already smoldering, waiting to roar. Hey, what do you think about Brenda's excuse? Comment 1 if you've ever seen someone judge a book by its cover and regret it, or 2 if you think she's digging her own grave here. If you're rooting for Jade and Malik to come out on top, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss how this showdown explodes next. Ever wonder how far a grudge can push someone? Brenda's about to show us, but what's Calvin got up his sleeve to protect his kids from the storm she's brewing? Jade and Malik settled back into their first-class seats, the leather cradling them like a quiet victory. The hum of the plane a steady pulse beneath their feet. Jade pulled her paperback out again, flipping to where she'd left off, her shoulders loosening for the first time since Brenda's outburst. Malik leaned toward the window, tracing the clouds streaking past at 30,000 feet, his earlier shame fading into a cautious grin. "Dad's the man," he muttered, glancing at Jade, who nodded, a flicker of pride in her chest. They'd won, hadn't they? Brenda's apology, forced or not, had put them back where they belonged, and the whispers from other passengers had dulled to a low murmur. The cabin felt normal again, or close enough, with soft clinks of glassware as a younger flight attendant offered drinks 2 rows up. Jade let herself breathe, thinking maybe, just maybe, the rest of the flight would be smooth. But up front, Brenda wasn't done. She stood by the galley, pouring water for a suit in 1A, her smile tight as a drum, her mind a churning mess of spite. Calvin's voice still rang in her ears, that cold, commanding growl stripping her down in front of the cockpit crew. Her, prejudiced? She'd been keeping order for 30 years, spotting trouble before it started, and those kids with their casual clothes and no escort didn't fit the first-class mold. She'd been right to question them, she told herself, her grip on the pitcher whitening her knuckles. Being forced to grovel stung worse than a slap, and now the whole plane knew she'd been overruled. She wouldn't let it stand. As the flight leveled out over Mississippi, Brenda slipped her phone from her pocket, texting a number she'd used before, a guy who owed her a favor. Tom Riley, a baggage handler back in Atlanta, a wiry ex-con with a buzz cut and a chip on his shoulder bigger than hers. "Need a job done," she typed, her thumbs quick. 2 kids, first class, Jackson, plant something in their bags. Make it stick. Tom's reply buzzed back fast. "On it, what's the play?" She smirked, glancing toward Jade and Malik's row, their heads bent together, oblivious. "Drugs. Enough to cause a scene. I'll tip security in LA." She hit send, her pulse ticking up, a thrill cutting through the humiliation. Tom was her kind of people, rough around the edges, no love for the uppity types who thought they owned the world. He'd do it clean, and she'd watch the Jacksons crash hard. Back in Atlanta, Tom slunk into the cargo hold during a shift change. The jet's belly a maze of bags and crates, the air thick with jet fuel and dust. He found Jade's sleek backpack and Malik's beat-up one, tagged for first-class priority, and unzipped them quick, his gloved hands steady. From his pocket, he pulled a baggie of white powder, sugar he'd grabbed from a break room, but it'd look real enough to spark panic. He tucked it into Malik's bag, deep under a hoodie, then sealed it up, whistling low as he slipped out, unnoticed. Job done. Brenda wouldn't owe him much for this, just a bottle of bourbon and a nod next time they crossed paths. Hours later, the plane descended into Los Angeles, the city sprawling gold and gray under a hazy dusk sky. Jade stretched, her book finished, feeling lighter as the wheels kissed the runway with a soft jolt. Malik yawned, slinging his backpack over his shoulder, ready to text Dad about the win. They stepped off the jet bridge, first-class perks letting them lead the pack, the terminal buzzing with travelers dragging suitcases and shouting into phones. Jade spotted a guy in a Lakers cap eyeing them, but she brushed it off, chalking it up to the earlier drama. They were almost to the gate's exit when it hit. 4 airport security guards, beefy guys in black vests, stormed through the crowd, boots pounding tile, hands on holsters. "You two, stop right there," the lead one barked, a stocky white guy with a buzz cut and a scowl, his badge glinting under the fluorescent lights. Jade froze, her stomach dropping, Malik stumbling into her as the guards boxed them in. "Hands up now!" another shouted, his voice a gunshot in the chaos. Passengers scattered, some pulling out phones, others gawking as Jade and Malik raised their arms, confusion crashing over them like a wave. "What's going on?" Jade demanded, her voice sharp, but the lead guard ignored her, snatching their bags. "We got a tip. You're carrying contraband." He ripped open Malik's backpack, digging past clothes, and pulled out the baggie, holding it up like a trophy. Well, what's this?" Malik's eyes widened, his breath hitching. "That's not mine," he yelled, stepping forward, but a guard shoved him back, hard, his shoulder slamming into Jade. She caught him, her mind racing. "We didn't do anything. That's planted," she snapped, but the guards weren't listening. The lead one smirked, his eyes flicking over them, lingering on their skin. "First-class kids, huh? Guess money can't buy everything." The crowd thickened, whispers turning to murmurs, phones recording every second. "Drug dealers," someone muttered, loud enough to sting. Jade's chest tightened, rage and fear tangling as the guards cuffed them, metal biting their wrists. "You're coming with us," the leader growled, dragging them toward a side door, the terminal blurring. Past, Malik's voice cracked. "Jade, what's happening?" She clenched her jaw, fighting panic. "I don't know, but Dad'll fix this." The door slammed shut behind them, locking them in a stark holding room, concrete walls and a single flickering bulb overhead. Outside, Brenda lingered by the gate, her blazer swapped for a plain jacket, blending into the crowd. She watched the guards haul them off, a smirk tugging her lips, satisfaction warming her gut. She'd tipped security anonymously, a quick call from a burner phone mid-flight, claiming she'd overheard a deal. No one could trace it, not with the plane's spotty signal logs. She texted Tom. "They're nabbed. Good work." His reply pinged. "Pleasure's mine." She pocketed the phone, slipping away as the jet emptied, her shift technically over. Calvin would fire her if he knew, but she'd made sure he wouldn't. Not yet. In the holding room, Jade sat on a metal bench, Malik beside her, his cuffed, hands trembling. The lead guard loomed, tossing the baggie on a table. "Start talking. Where'd you get it?" Jade glared, her voice steel. "We didn't. You're wasting your time. I want a lawyer." The guard scoffed, leaning close, his breath sour. "Lawyer? Cute. You're in deep, princess." Malik shrank back, but Jade held firm, her mind spinning. This wasn't random. Brenda's face flashed, that fake apology, the venom behind it. Could she have done this? Before she could piece it together, the door burst open and Calvin stormed in, a 6'4" thundercloud in a suit, his Apex CEO badge flashing like a weapon. The guards straightened, surprise flickering, but the leader held his ground. "Mr. Jackson, your kids are in trouble." Calvin's eyes locked on the baggie, then the cuffs, his voice a low rumble. "Test it now." The guard hesitated, then barked an order. A tech swabbed the powder, minutes ticking by in silence, Jade and Malik watching, hearts pounding. The result came back. Sugar. Calvin's glare could have melted steel. "Sugar? You cuffed my kids over sugar?" The leader's smirk vanished, his face paling. "We got a tip," he stammered, but Calvin cut him off, stepping closer. "A tip? From who? Unlock them, or I'll have your badge by morning." The cuffs clicked off, Jade rubbing her wrists, Malik flexing his hands, relief crashing in. The guards shuffled out, muttering about wasted time, leaving the family alone. Calvin pulled them into a hug, his arms a fortress, but his voice shook. "I'm so sorry, you two, this shouldn't have happened." Jade nodded, her throat tight. But Malik stayed quiet, eyes on the floor. "We're safe now, right?" she asked, needing to hear it. Calvin's jaw tightened. No answer. Just a promise in his grip. Brenda was out there, free, her trap sprung, and foiled. But her smirk lingered in Jade's mind. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Jade and Malik sat shoulder to shoulder on a cold metal bench in the airport's holding room, the concrete walls closing in, the single bulb overhead buzzing like a trapped fly. Jade's wrists ached from the cuffs, now off, red marks blooming, where steel had bitten. Malik's hands shook in his lap, his hoodie pulled tight around him, his breath shallow, eyes darting to the baggie of sugar on the scratch table across the room. The air stank of bleach and sweat, thick with the weight of what just happened. 4 guards had dragged them here, accused them of trafficking, all because of Brenda's tip, and now they waited, trapped, the clock on the wall ticking past 7 p.m. Jade's mind raced, piecing it together, Brenda's smirk flashing like a warning light. Malik whispered, "They can't keep us, right?" His voice small, cracking. She squeezed his knee, forcing calm she didn't feel. "They won't. Dad's coming." The door loomed shut, locking them in with a detective who'd stormed in. Minutes ago, a wiry guy named Kessler, mid-40s, with a buzz cut and a sneer that curled his thin lips. He paced, boots scuffing the floor, his badge glinting under the harsh light. "So," he started, voice gravelly, leaning over the table. "Where'd you get the stash? Dealer? Friend? Don't play dumb. I've seen kids like you pull this before." Jade's jaw tightened, her sharp mind kicking into gear. She sat straighter, meeting his gaze, her voice steady, despite the churn in her gut. "That's not ours. Someone planted it. We're not saying another word without a lawyer." Kessler laughed, a dry, barking sound crossing his arms. "Lawyer? You're 16, princess, not a mob boss. You're in deep, and that attitude won't help." He grabbed the baggie, shaking it, sugar dusting the table. "This looks real enough to me. Airport's a federal zone, you know what that means?" Malik shrank back, his shoulder brushing Jade's. But she didn't flinch, her eyes locked, on Kessler. "Test it then," she shot back, "and when it's nothing, you'll see you're wrong." He smirked, leaning closer, his breath hot with coffee and spite. "Oh, I'll test it, but you're not walking out of here clean. Rich kids think they're untouchable, huh?" The jab stung, racial undertones dripping from his tone, but Jade held her ground, her pulse hammering. She'd seen this before. Teachers doubting her grades, cops eyeing her at the mall. Always the same assumption. She didn't belong. Malik's voice piped up, barely audible. "We didn't do anything." Kessler spun on him, pointing. "Quiet, Junior, or I'll cuff you again." Jade's hand tightened on Malik's leg, silencing him, her brain screaming for Calvin. Where was he? Outside, Calvin barreled through LAX's terminal, his suit jacket flapping, Apex CEO badge clipped to his chest, a beacon cutting through the crowd. He'd landed 30 minutes ago from a private jet, alerted by Jade's earlier text, and stormed security's desk, demanding access. "My kids are in there," he'd roared, slamming his ID down, "and you've got no cause." The desk, officer, a nervous kid barely 20, had fumbled a call, and now Calvin shoved past a checkpoint, 2 guards trailing, unable to stop him. He hit the holding room door like a battering ram, bursting in, his 6'4" frame filling the space, eyes blazing. Kessler spun, startled, the baggie slipping from his grip. "Who the hell?" he started, but Calvin cut him off, voice a low thunder. "Calvin Jackson, Apex Airlines, those are my kids. Test that powder now, or I'll have your job." The guards in the hall froze, recognizing the name, the power, but Kessler squared up, defiant. "We've got a tip, Mr. Jackson. Your kids were carrying—" Calvin stepped closer, towering over him, his badge catching the light. "Test it." Kessler's smirk faltered, his bravado cracking under that stare. He nodded to a guard who grabbed a kit, swabbing the sugar, the room silent but for Malik's shaky breaths and Jade's steady glare. Minutes dragged, the text machine beeping, then spitting a result. Negative. Sugar. Plain and simple. Calvin's eyes never left Kessler, his voice dropping to a hiss. "Sugar. You locked up my kids over sugar?" Kessler's face drained, his sneer gone, stammering. "The tip said, we thought." Calvin loomed, cutting him off again. "Who tipped you? Who set this up?" Kessler backed up, hands raised. "No answer, just a weak procedure, sir." Jade stood, pulling Malik with her, her voice slicing through. "It was Brenda Harris. Had to be." Calvin's head snapped to her, then back to Kessler, fury coiling tighter. "Unlock this room, get out, and pray I don't sue you into next year." The guards scrambled, the door clicking open, Kessler retreating with a mutter about wasted time, his tail between his legs. The family stepped into the hall, Calvin pulling Jade and Malik close, his arms a shield, his suit wrinkled from the rush. "You okay?" he asked, voice softer now, scanning their faces. Jade nodded, rubbing her wrists. But Malik stayed quiet, his eyes on the floor, the weight of those cuffs still sinking in. "I'm sorry," Calvin said, his chest tight. "This shouldn't have happened. Not to you." Jade met his gaze, her mind still on Brenda. "She did this, Dad. She's not done." Calvin's jaw clenched. No words, just a nod, his fury shifting to a cold resolve. He'd fire Brenda, hunt her down, make her pay. But first, he had to get his kids home. The terminal buzzed beyond the hall, travelers oblivious, the sugar baggie left behind like a taunt. Brenda, meanwhile, had slipped out of LAX, her jacket swapped for a hoodie, blending into the dusk crowd. She'd ditched her shift early, claiming a sick day, and watched from a distance as security swarmed the gate, her smirk fading when Calvin appeared. She'd underestimated him, sure, but the sugar dodge wouldn't stick to her. No proof, no trace, just a burner phone now crushed under her heel in a parking lot. She pulled out her real phone, texting Tom. They slipped it. Sugar didn't. Hold. His reply buzzed. Damn. Next move? She typed fast, her fingers steady despite the heat in her chest. They won't pin this on me. Lay low. We're not done. She hit send, slipping into a cab, her mind already spinning the next play. Calvin might think he'd won, might think his kids were safe, but she'd worked too long, too hard to let them strut away clean. Back in the hall, Jade grabbed her backpack, Malik slinging his over his shoulder, the adrenaline draining slow. We're safe now, right? She asked, needing Calvin to say it, needing the nightmare to end. He hugged them tighter, his voice, firm but hollow. You're with me now. No promise, no certainty. Just a father's grip against a storm he couldn't yet see. The sugar had cleared them, sure, but Brenda's shadow lingered, her trap foiled but her hate unbound. Jade felt it, a prickle up her spine, and Malik's silence screamed it louder. They'd dodged this bullet, but the gun was still loaded, and Brenda was out there, finger on the trigger, ready to fire again. The holding room ordeal faded into the Los Angeles night as Calvin hustled Jade and Malik through LAX's terminal, his arms around them like a shield, his suit rumpled, but his stride unbroken. Jade clutched her backpack, her sharp eyes scanning. The crowd, Malik trailing close, his hoodie up, still shaken from the cuffs and Kessler's sneer. They piled into a black SUV waiting curbside, Calvin's driver peeling out, the city's lights streaking past as they headed for Apex Airlines, headquarters downtown. Inside the towering glass building, Calvin's office buzzed, staff scrambling to contain a storm they didn't yet understand. Jade and Malik sank into leather chairs, exhaustion hitting, but sleep wouldn't come. Not yet. Up in the air, on Flight 927, a passenger named Greg, a 30-something tech bro in 3C, had filmed Brenda's initial ejection of the siblings, his phone shaky, but the audio clear. Her sharp, "You sure you're in the right place?" And Jade's steady, "Yes, ma'am." He'd posted it mid-flight, Wi-Fi spotty but enough, tagging it, "Gah, Apex, Racism." By the time the plane landed, the video had blown up, racking 10,000 views, then 50,000, then 100,000, as retweets spread it like wildfire. Comments poured in, disgusting, Apex is trash, racism at 30,000 feet. The clip looped on X, TikTok, Instagram, a 2-minute gut punch of Brenda's prejudice, Jade's defiance, and the humiliating walk to economy. Apex's stock ticker flickered on Calvin's office screen, dipping 2 points, then 4, a red line slicing through his empire's worth. He stood by the window, hands clasped behind him, watching the city pulse below, his jaw tight. "This is bigger than Brenda now," he muttered, half to himself, half to his kids. Jade nodded, her phone lighting up with notifications, friends texting. "Is that you?" Malik stared at his sneakers, voice low. "Everyone's gonna see this." Calvin turned, his eyes hard. "They will, and will use it." But Brenda had other plans. She ditched the cab 10 miles from LAX, holing up in a dive bar off Sunset, the kind with sticky floors and neon buzzing over a jukebox no one played. Her hoodie hid her face, but her mind raced, plotting. She'd seen the video trending. On her phone, her name popping in comments. "Fire her!" and "racist hag." Fury boiled, but opportunity glinted. She dialed a burner, calling a tabloid contact, a sleazy guy named Vince who'd pay for dirt. "Got a story," she said, voice low. "Apex CEO's kids got special treatment after I caught them out of place. Reverse discrimination. I'm the victim here." Vince bit, wiring her $5,000, and by midnight, a headline screamed online. "Flight attendant targeted by tyrant CEO's bratty kids." Brenda's spin twisted the truth, painting her as a hard-working woman crushed by Calvin's power, the siblings as spoiled liars. She smirked, sipping a cheap beer, thinking she'd flipped the script. Morning broke, and Los Angeles woke to chaos. Protesters swarmed Apex's headquarters, 100 strong, then 200 spilling onto Figueroa Street, signs bobbing, "Justice for Brenda," and "Apex hates workers." A splinter group, egged on by the tabloid, turned uglier, chanting slurs. "Go back where you came from." As Jade and Malik stepped from the SUV with Calvin, security forming a wall. A bottle sailed, shattering, near Malik's feet, glass spraying his flint sharp. Jade grabbed his arm, pulling him close, her heart pounding. "They hate us," he whispered, eyes wide. She swallowed, no words, just a glare at the crowd. Inside, Calvin rallied his team, a dozen execs around a conference table, screens flashing the viral video and plummeting stock. "We're bleeding," a board member, Ellen Pierce, snapped, her silver hair pulled tight. 6 points down, investors pulling out. "This could sink us." Calvin slammed a fist on the table, the room jolting. "It's a lie and we'll prove it. Brenda's behind this and I'll bury her." Jade sat in the corner, Malik beside her, overhearing Ellen's warning, her stomach twisting. This wasn't just about seats or sugar anymore. It was war, and their family was the target. Calvin barked orders, PR drafting statements, legal drafting suits, but the mob outside grew, sirens wailing as cops half-heartedly pushed them back. Jade scrolled X, the video at 1 million views, comments splitting. "Apex deserves this," versus "Brenda's a bigot." She showed Malik, his face paling. "They're picking sides," he said, voice tight. Calvin caught their look, crossing the room, kneeling by them. "We're fighting back, you hear me? This doesn't define us." But Jade saw the strain in his eyes, the cracks in his armor, and knew their fight was just starting. Brenda, back at the bar, refreshed the tabloid site, her story gaining traction, X posts echoing her victimhood. "Poor Brenda, screwed by the elite." She texted Tom, "It's working. They're scrambling." His reply buzzed, "Good. What's next?" She grinned, plotting, her beer bottle sweating in her grip. Calvin might have dodged the sugar trap, but this public wave would drown him. His kids, his precious Airline. She'd make sure of it. Upstairs, Jade stood by the window, watching protesters scatter trash, a news van rolling up, cameras flashing. Malik joined her, silent, the weight of 1 million eyes pressing down. "We didn't ask for this," he murmured. She nodded, her resolve hardening. Brenda's lies were spreading, and their win in the holding room felt like a flicker against this storm. Calvin's voice cut through. "We'll fix this." But Jade wondered how deep the damage ran, how far Brenda would push. "Hey, what's your take on this mess? Comment 1 if you think Brenda's digging her own grave with these lies, or 2 if you'd stand with Jade and Malik against the mob. If you're hooked on this family's fight for justice, hit that like button and subscribe to catch every twist. Has a viral lie ever turned your world upside down? Brenda's just getting started, but what's lurking behind her next strike? Calvin Jackson stood in his Apex Airlines office, the Los Angeles skyline a jagged silhouette against the dawn, his broad frame taut with purpose as he traced Brenda's trail. The viral video still burned online, Apex's stock down 8 points. Protesters thinning, but their echoes lingering in the streets below. Jade and Malik slumped in chairs nearby, exhaustion carving shadows under their eyes. The night's chaos a weight they couldn't shake. Calvin's phone buzzed, a private investigator's voice crackling through. "Founder, seedy motel off Sunset checked in under Harris." Calvin's jaw tightened, a predator locking on prey. "Good, I'm ending this." He dialed Brenda, direct. Her number pulled from Apex's records, his voice ice when she picked up. "Brenda Harris, you're fired. Effective now. You humiliated my kids, framed them, and trashed my company. Turn yourself in or I'll drag you in." She laughed, a harsh grating sound cutting through the line, her defiance unshaken. "You think you scare me, Jackson? I've got friends who'll bury you first." The call clicked dead, leaving Calvin staring at the phone, fury coiling in his chest. He turned to his security chief, a burly ex-cop named Ray. "Get her. Motels at Sunset and Vine. No mistakes." Ray nodded, heading out. But Brenda's laugh echoed in Calvin's mind, a warning he couldn't place. She wasn't alone, that much was clear. But who was backing her? At the motel, Brenda smirked, tossing her burner phone onto a stained mattress, the room reeking of mildew and cigarette smoke. She'd expected Calvin's call, played him just right, her real ace still hidden. Harold Vance, Apex's CFO, a wiry 50-something with a comb-over and a grudge, had been her inside man for months. Harold despised Calvin's diversity agenda, his push for black hires, his rise from nothing to everything Harold's old money family never had to earn. They'd met at a bar last year, her griping about entitled passengers, him about Calvin's ego, and a pact was born. Now, Harold sat in Apex's executive suite, 2 floors below Calvin, his fingers flying over a laptop, leaking fake financials to a rival airlines board, cooked books showing Apex insolvent, debts inflated, profits slashed. He hit send, smirk tugging his thin lips, then dialed Brenda. "It's done. Stock'll crash by noon. You're welcome." She chuckled low and mean. "Perfect. Hit him harder." Harold's next move was already in motion, a tip to the LAPD from an anonymous source, claiming Calvin's drug lord kids funded Apex with dirty money. Back at the Jacksons' Brentwood mansion, Jade and Malik crashed on the couch, the drive from downtown a blur, their gated community a fortress of manicured lawns and high walls. Calvin paced the living room, glass walls reflecting his restless shadow, his phone glued to his ear, barking at legal to sue Brenda, tabloids, anyone fueling the fire. Jade watched him, her sharp mind uneasy, Malik dozing beside her, his hoodie a shield. "He's gonna fix it, right?" she murmured, more to herself than him. But Malik didn't stir. Then the world shattered. Sirens wailed outside, red and blue lights slashing through the dawn, tires screeching as 6 cop cars stormed. The gate. The front door exploded inward, wood splintering, and a dozen officers flooded in, guns drawn, shouting, "Calvin Jackson, hands up!" Jade screamed, leaping to her feet, Malik jolting awake, his eyes wide with terror. Calvin dropped his phone, raising his hands slow, voice steady despite the chaos. "What's this about?" The lead cop, a beefy guy with a crew cut named Ortiz, smirked, holstering his weapon as 2 others cuffed Calvin, metal snapping tight. "You're under arrest. Money laundering, drug trafficking, courtesy of your kid's little operation." Jade lunged forward. "That's a lie!" But a cop shoved her back, her shoulders slamming the wall. Malik yelled, "Let him go!" Scrambling up, but another officer pinned him, his face pressed to the couch. Calvin twisted, glaring at Ortiz. "This is bullshit. Check your source." Ortiz laughed, dragging him toward the door. "Source checks out. Enjoy jail. Big shot." The cops hauled Calvin out, his suit jacket snagging on the splintered frame. Jade and Malik fighting free, tears streaking her face, his fists clenched. "Dad!" she shouted. But the cruiser's door slammed, lights flashing as they sped off, neighbors peeking from curtains, whispers already spreading. Brenda watched from a grainy live feed on her motel TV, a news chopper circling the mansion, her grin wide. She texted Tom, "Told you I'd bury them." His reply buzzed. "Sweet. Cops bought it?" She typed back, "Hook, line, sinker. Harold's a genius." She leaned back, the mattress creaking, savoring the chaos. Calvin in, cuffs, his kids broken, Apex teetering, all because she'd played the game better. Harold's leak had tanked the stock another 10 points, investors fleeing, and the arrest sealed it. She'd won, or so she thought, her pride a shield against the storm she'd unleashed. Back at the mansion, Jade grabbed her phone, hands shaking. Dialing Ray, Apex's security chief. "They took Dad. Some drug charge, it's fake." Ray's voice crackled, calm but urgent. "I'm on it. Stay put, I'll get him out." She hung up, turning to Malik, his face pale, eyes red. "This is Brenda," she said, certainty hardening her voice. "And whoever she's got inside." Malik nodded, voice hoarse. "What do we do?" Jade's mind raced, her resolve steeling. "We fight. Like Dad would." Outside, the sirens faded, the mansion silent but for their breathing, the weight of betrayal sinking in. Calvin sat in a squad car, wrists aching, his empire crumbling, his kids alone, and Harold's smug face flashed, a puzzle piece clicking. Someone close had sold him out, and Brenda was just the tip. He'd underestimated her reach, her hate, and now he paid, but he'd claw back for Jade, for Malik, for everything he'd built. At Apex HQ, Harold sipped coffee, watching the stock plummet, a puppet master pulling strings, thinking he'd toppled the king. But the game wasn't over. Not yet. Jade Jackson stood in the shattered living room of their Brentwood mansion, the front door hanging off its hinges, dawnlight spilling over splintered wood and glass from the police raid. Malik paced beside her, his hoodie sleeves pulled over, his hands wiping his eyes, the sting of Calvin's arrest still raw. Jade's phone buzzed, Ray's voice cutting through. "Bailed him out. He's on his way." She exhaled, relief sharp but fleeting, her sharp mind already churning. "Thanks, Ray. We've got work to do." She hung up, turning to Malik, his lanky frame tense, voice shaky. "They can't just take Dad like that, right?" Jade nodded, her resolve a steel thread. "They did, but we're taking him back. Brenda's not winning this." Malik's eyes flickered, a spark catching. "How?" She grabbed her laptop from the couch, flipping it open, fingers flying. "We find who's helping her. This isn't just her." Calvin's arrest screamed inside job, someone high up feeding lies, and Jade's gut pointed to Apex itself. Malik hovered, tech-savvy from years of gaming, his voice steadier. "You think it's emails? Logs?" She nodded, pulling up a VPN. She'd rigged for school projects, masking their IP. "Start with the execs. Someone's dirty." Malik cracked his knuckles, sliding beside her, plugging his phone into the laptop as a hotspot, the mansion's Wi-Fi spotty post-raid. They hacked into Apex's internal server, Jade's coding skills slicing through firewalls, Malik sniffing out weak passwords. Hours ticked by, the sun climbing, and then they hit gold. Harold Vance's email, a thread with an encrypted alias, Brenda's, burner. "Look at this," Jade whispered, pointing to a message. "Leak sent. Cops tipped. Jackson's done." Malik's jaw dropped. "Harold? The CFO?" Jade scrolled, uncovering more. Fake financials sent to a rival airline. Apex painted, as a sinking ship, and a reply from Brenda. "Good. Now the kids." Attached was a grainy photo of them from the flight, time-stamped days ago. Malik's voice hardened. "They're with those racist jerks Dad fired last year." Jade's eyes narrowed, piecing it. Harold, Brenda, and a white supremacist clique, axed by Calvin's diversity push, now out for blood. The door slammed open, Calvin storming in, suit torn, eyes blazing but weary, Ray behind him. Jade leapt up, laptop in hand. "Dad, it's Harold Vance. He's with Brenda. Leaking lies, framing you. Calvin's fists clenched, rage flaring, fresh. That snake. Show me. She spun the screen, evidence glowing, and Calvin's voice dropped to a growl. Board meetings in 2 hours. We end this now. He hugged them tight, pride cutting through his fury. You two are my rock. They piled into the SUV, Ray driving, speeding back to Apex HQ, the glass tower looming under a noon sun. The boardroom buzzed, 10 execs around a polished table. Harold at the far end, sipping water, his comb-over slick with sweat. Ellen Pierce, the silver-haired board member, tapped her pen, voice sharp. Stock's down 12 points, Calvin. Explain. He strode in, Jade and Malik flanking him, laptop under his arm, his presence a thunderclap. I will. Harold's. Why we're bleeding. Harold choked, water spilling, his face paling as Calvin slammed the laptop down, emails projected on the wall screen. Fake financials, sent to our rivals. LAPD tip, pinning me for drugs, collusion with Brenda Harris, and a hate group. The room froze, gasps rippling, Ellen's pen dropping. Harold stammered, This is nonsense, fabricated. But Jade cut in, voice steel. We traced it to your account, your IP. You're done. Malik stepped up, pointing to the photo. You targeted us too, you coward. Calvin loomed over Harold, voice low, lethal. You sold out my family, my company, for what? Bigotry? Harold shrank, eyes darting, but Calvin nodded to Ray, stationed by the door with 2 cops on speed dial. Take him. The officers stormed in, cuffing Harold, his protest shrill as they dragged him out. You can't prove it. The board watched, stunned, Ellen nodding slow. We'll recover the stock. Legal's on it. Calvin exhaled, turning to his kids, pride swelling. You saved us. Jade managed a smile, Malik's shoulders easing, the room settling as Apex's pulse steadied. Stock ticked up 2 points within an hour, PR spinning the arrest as swift justice. They thought it was over, Brenda's pawn gone, her game checkmated. But across town, at the motel, Brenda's TV blared news of Harold's bust, her beer bottle shattering against the wall, glass spraying. She'd slipped the raid, cops kicking in an empty room minutes after she bolted, her instincts sharp. Idiot, she hissed, pacing, her hoodie soaked with sweat. She texted Tom, Harold's out, plan's still alive. His reply buzzed, Cops are close, what now? She grinned, feral, grabbing a duffel stuffed with cash and a gun. This isn't over, they'll pay bigger. She vanished into the LA sprawl, a ghost with venom, her next strike brewing. Back at the mansion, Jade and Malik crashed on the couch, Calvin on a call with legal, victory tasting sweet but fragile. Jade scrolled X, Apex trending up. Justice for Jackson gaining steam. We got him, Malik said, fist bumping her, a rare grin breaking through. She nodded, but her eyes lingered on the window, dusk falling, shadows stretching. Then it hit, a brick crashing through the glass, shattering the calm, skidding across the floor. Jade yelped, Malik ducking, Calvin spinning mid-call. The brick landed, a note taped rough. Don't belong here. Jade's breath caught, Malik's grin gone, Calvin dropping the phone, rushing to them. Get down, he barked, pulling them behind the couch, glass crunching underfoot. The street outside lay quiet, no figures, just the echo of hate. Jade's hands shook, picking up the note, her voice a whisper. Brenda. Calvin's eyes darkened, nodding slow. Her or her friends. The win over Harold felt hollow now, a flicker against a growing fire. Brenda wasn't done, her reach deeper, her hate a blade still swinging. Jade Jackson crouched behind the couch in their Brentwood mansion, glass shards glinting under the dim living room lights, the brick with its hateful note clutched in her trembling hand. Malik huddled beside her, his breath ragged, eyes wide, as the slur burned into their silence. Calvin knelt low, his suit smeared with dust, phone pressed to his ear, barking at Ray. Get security here now, triple the detail. The line clicked, and he scanned the broken window, dusk bleeding into night outside, the street eerily still after the brick's crash. Stay down, he whispered, his voice a steel anchor. But Jade felt the tremor in it, the fear he wouldn't. Voice. She dropped the note, its weight too much, and grabbed Malik's arm, pulling him closer, her sharp mind racing. "They're coming for us," she said, voice low, certain. Calvin nodded, his jaw tight, pulling a handgun from a locked drawer, checking the clip with practiced calm. "Not if I stop them first." The mansion's gates buzzed, security piling in, 6 burly guys in black vests, radios crackling, but Jade's gut screamed it wasn't enough. Across town, Brenda Harris stood in a shadowed alley off Crenshaw, her hoodie swapped for a dark jacket, a bullhorn in hand, her duffel slung over her shoulder. She'd rallied her crew, a dozen ex-Apex, grunts and supremacist pals Tom had roped in, all fueled by the tabloids' lies and years of resentment. "Jackson thinks he's king," she snarled, pacing before them, their faces hard, some scarred, all white, all angry. "Tonight we show him he's nothing." Tom grinned, cracking his knuckles, a Molotov cocktail dangling from his belt. "Let's burn it down." Brenda nodded, her smirk feral, hate afire in her veins. She'd dodged the motel raid, slipped Harold's bust, and now she'd hit harder, turning whispers into war. Sirens wailed in the distance as her mob rolled out, piling into trucks, tires squealing toward Brentwood, a storm of vengeance brewing. Back at the mansion, Jade peeked over the couch, glass crunching under her sneakers, Malik's hand gripping hers. Security fanned out, 2 at the gate, 4 sweeping the perimeter, but the quiet snapped like a taut wire. Headlights flared, engines roared, and 100 voices erupted, chanting, "Get out, trash!" and worse, slurs slicing the night. Jade's stomach dropped, Malik whispering, "What the hell?" Calvin bolted to the window, gun raised, peering through jagged edges. Trucks screeched to a halt, disgorging a mob, hoods up, bats swinging, torches flickering. "Stay back," he yelled, but a rock smashed another pane, glass raining, and Jade yanked Malik down again, heart pounding. Brenda's bullhorn crackled, her voice booming. "You don't belong here, Jackson. Never did." The mob surged, 100 strong, then 200, spilling from side streets, neighbors' lights flicking on, some joining, others cowering. Security fired warning shots, pops echoing, but the crowd pressed, fearless, fueled by Brenda's venom. A Molotov sailed, exploding, against a parked car, flames licking the driveway, heat blasting through the broken window. Jade scrambled to a kitchen cabinet, grabbing a fire extinguisher, her hand steady despite the chaos. "Malik, help me!" He stumbled over, eyes darting, and they sprayed foam, dousing the blaze creeping up the porch, smoke stinging their lungs. Calvin fired into the air. "Back off!" But the mob roared louder, another bottle arcing, this one smashing through a side window, igniting curtains in a whoosh of orange. Jade ran, extinguisher blasting, Malik coughing beside her. The room a haze of heat and screams. Outside, Brenda paced the rear, bullhorn down, watching her chaos unfold, satisfaction curling her lips. "Burn it all," she muttered, texting Tom. "Keep pushing." His reply buzzed. "Cops are slow. We've got time." She'd counted, on that LAPD's hesitation, some officers lingering at the edges, smirking, muttering, "Let the rich punks handle it." A bat smashed the gate, metal groaning, and security fought hand to hand, fists flying, blood spattering. Jade doused, the curtains flames dying, but the mob breached, boots stomping the lawn, a tire iron shattering a glass door. Calvin grabbed them, pulling them to the stairs. "Up now!" They bolted, footsteps thundering below, voices howling. "Where are you hiding, Jackson?" Jade's mind spun. "They won't stop." And Malik nodded, terror in his eyes. Calvin barricaded the upstairs hall, shoving a dresser, gun trained on the stairs, security's radios crackling. "We're overrun!" Sirens finally screamed close, lights flashing, and the mob faltered, some peeling off, tires squealing as cops waded in, batons swinging, but sluggish, half-hearted. Brenda's bullhorn blared one last time. "You'll never belong." Before, she slipped into an alley, her crew scattering, leaving torched cars and broken glass. Inside, Jade peeked from a bedroom window, Malik beside her, the lawn a war zone, security bloodied but standing, cops cuffing stragglers. Calvin lowered his gun, chest heaving. "They're gone." For now. Jade's voice shook. She's still out there. He nodded, eyes dark, pulling them close, the air thick with smoke and fear. A shadow flickered beyond the gate. A figure, watching, then gone. Brenda's promise hanging heavy. Hey, what do you make of this insanity? Comment 1 if you think Brenda's lost her mind leading this mob, or 2 if you'd fight back like Jade and Malik did. If this family's grit against hate has you hooked, smash that like button and subscribe for the next wild turn ever faced. A crowd that wouldn't quit? Brenda slipped away again, but what's her next brutal play to break the Jacksons? The Brentwood mansion smoldered in the aftermath of the mob's assault. Charred curtains drooping, glass crunching underfoot as Jade and Malik picked through the wreckage with Calvin. Dawn broke gray over the gated community. Security doubled. At the gates, their vests stained with sweat and blood from the night's brawl. Jade's hand still shook from the extinguisher, her sharp eyes scanning the lawn, torched cars a grim reminder of Brenda's hate. Malik kicked a shard of glass, his hoodie singed, voice low. She's not stopping, is she? Calvin holstered his gun, his suit torn, face etched with exhaustion but resolve. Not until we stop her. He'd called in private investigators, LAPD too slow, too complicit, and Ray's team swept the grounds, radios buzzing. Jade nodded, her mind churning. We need to stay ahead. Days passed, tension a thick fog, the family bunkered in, school on hold. Apex's stock clawing back, but fragile. Malik, restless, begged to go back. I can't hide forever. And Calvin relented, sending him with a security detail to Brentwood High, 3 miles away. Jade stayed home, laptop open, digging into Brenda's past, hunting her next move. At school, Malik shuffled through halls, his lanky frame hunched, eyes darting under his hoodie, 2 guards trailing discreetly. Lunch hit, and he slipped outside, needing air, the courtyard quiet, kids laughing at tables 50 yards off. The guards lingered by the door, chatting, and Malik paced near a fence, kicking pebbles, the mob's slurs echoing in his head. Then, it struck. A black van screeching up, tires smoking, doors flying open. 3 masked goons leapt out, ski masks tight, one swinging a bat, another a rag soaked in chloroform. Malik spun. Help! But a meaty hand clamped his mouth, the rag, smothering his nose, his legs buckling as the world blurred. The guards bolted too late, one tackled by a bat swing, the other fumbling his radio as the van peeled off. Malik limp in the back, tires spitting gravel. CCTV caught it, grainy but clear. Brenda's crew at work, her orders barked from a burner. Grab the boy, break them. Back home, Jade's phone rang, Ray's voice tight. Malik's gone. Van took him from school. Her heart stopped, laptop clattering. What? Calvin stormed in, overhearing, his face a mask of rage and fear. Where? Ray sent the footage, Jade pulling it up, her sharp mind locking on the van's plates. A partial match to a rental from Crenshaw. I can track it, she said, fingers flying. Hacking DMV records, cross-referencing rentals, her voice steady despite the panic clawing her chest. Calvin grabbed his gun. We're going. Ray, gear up. They piled into an SUV, Jade navigating. The trail leading to a derelict warehouse off Alameda, 10 miles south, a rusting hulk in a sea of weeds. Dusk settling heavy. Inside, Malik woke, head throbbing, wrists bound with zip ties, duct tape gagging him. The warehouse stank of oil and rot, crates stacked high, a single bulb swinging overhead. Brenda loomed, her dark jacket swapped for a flannel shirt, gun in hand, her smirk a blade. Thought you were untouchable, huh? She sneered, pacing her crew, Tom and 2 others, grinning behind her, bats tapping palms. Malik glared, muffled curses through the tape, his bruises blooming purple under the dim light. Brenda ripped the tape off, his yelp sharp, and leaned close. Your dad's finished. Resign, or you're done. She tossed a ransom note, slurs scrawled, Your kind doesn't run things. Malik spat. He'll never quit. And she backhanded him, blood trickling from his lip, her laugh cold. Outside, Calvin's SUV rolled, silent, lights off. Jade pinpointing the van parked by a loading dock. He's in there, she whispered, Calvin nodding. Ray and 2 guards fanning out, guns drawn. They crept through weeds, the warehouse's broken windows glinting, Brenda's voice drifting. "Time's up, kid." Calvin kicked the side door, wood splintering, and stormed in. "Let him go." Jade followed, heart pounding, Ray covering their flank. Brenda spun, gun raised. "You're late, Jackson." Tom lunged, bat swinging, but Ray tackled him, fists crunching bone. Shots rang out, Calvin diving for Malik, bullets pinging crates, Jade ducking low, her eyes locked on her brother. Brenda fired wild. "You're dead." But Calvin rolled, tackling her, the gun skidding across concrete. She clawed, nails raking, his face. But he pinned her. "It's over." Ray cuffed Tom, the other goons bolting, sirens screaming as LAPD finally rolled up, lights flooding the lot. Jade cut Malik's ties, his arms shaking as he hugged her. "You found me." Calvin held Brenda down, her snarls fading, cops swarming, cuffing her crew. But she twisted free in the chaos, slipping through a back exit, vanishing into the night. "She's gone," Jade yelled, Calvin cursing, cops too slow again. Malik stood, bruised but alive. "She said she'd kill us all." Calvin pulled them close, blood streaking his cheek. "Not while I'm breathing." They limped to the SUV, warehouse a tomb behind them, Brenda's vow a ghost in the air, her gun, lost but her hate reloaded. Days after the warehouse rescue, Brenda Harris was nabbed in a sting, LAPD finally moving when Calvin's private investigators cornered her in a Skid Row flophouse, her duffel stuffed with cash and a loaded .45. Jade and Malik watched from the Brentwood mansion, TV blaring as news choppers circled her perp walk, cuffs tight, her smirk gone, replaced by a snarl. Calvin stood by the repaired window, his face bruised but unbowed, suit fresh, voice low. "She's done." Jade nodded, her sharp eyes on the screen, Malik beside her, his lips still scabbed, hoodie swapped for a clean shirt, relief fragile. "She deserves worse," he muttered. And Jade squeezed his hand, her mind still replaying the warehouse, Brenda's gun, that promise of death. The trial hit fast, a media circus exploding across Los Angeles, cameras swarming the downtown courthouse, reporters shouting over each other, Apex CEO's kids testify, and flight attendants' racist rampage. Brenda sat in the dock, orange jumpsuit clashing with her pale skin, her lawyer a slick guy in pinstripes spinning self-defense, victimhood, anything to dodge the mountain of charges. Assault, kidnapping, arson, conspiracy. Jade took the stand first, 17 and steady, her braids pulled back, voice cutting through the packed room. "She ejected us from first class, said we didn't belong, framed us with sugar, sent a mob, kidnapped my brother," she said, eyes locked on Brenda detailing every racist act, the brick, the slurs, the gun to Malik's head. The jury, 8 women, 4 men, mixed races, leaned in, some nodding, others scribbling, Brenda's glare boring holes. But Jade didn't flinch, her resolve a blade honed by every blow. Malik followed, 15 and nervous, his lanky frame stiff, in a borrowed blazer, voice cracking but firm. "She hit me, tied me up, said Dad had to quit or I'd die," he testified, showing bruises faded to yellow. The courtroom silent but for his words and a juror's gasp. Calvin sat in the gallery, fists clenched, pride warring with rage, his empire's scars laid bare. The prosecution piled on. CCTV from the flight, warehouse, school, emails tying Brenda to Harold, Tom's confession after a plea deal, pinning her as ringleader. Her defense crumbled, her lawyer stammering. She was provoked. But the jury wasn't buying, their faces hardening as closing arguments hit. After 6 hours deliberating, they filed back. The forewoman, a black woman, with gray curls reading guilty on all counts. Brenda slumped, her snarl twisting to shock. Sentenced to 20 years, no parole, the gavel banging like a thunderclap. Jade exhaled, Malik grinning, Calvin pulling them close. It's over. Apex threw a gala that night. A swanky ballroom, downtown chandeliers glittering, staff toasting the win, stock up 15 points, headlines screaming, "Justice served!" Calvin took the stage, glass raised, voice booming. To my kid's courage and Apex's future. Jade and Malik stood beside him, her in a sleek dress, him in a tie, applause washing over them. A moment of triumph snatched from the fire. Calvin mid-speech, "We've weathered the storm." When a phone buzzed, Ray's voice cutting through. "Juror's dead, found in her car, stabbed, note says, for Brenda." Panic erupted, guests gasping, Jade's glass slipping, shattering. Malik's eyes wide. "What?" Calvin froze, speech dying, security swarming, cops flooding in, the ballroom a chaos of suits and screams. Jade grabbed Malik, pulling him to a corner, her sharp mind racing, her crew still out there. Calvin barked at Ray, "Lock it down." But the damage hit, fear rippling, guests fleeing, the gala a graveyard of their win. News vans swarmed outside. Juror murdered post-Apex verdict, flashing, stock wobbling again. Back home, Jade found a burner phone in Malik's bag, slipped there in the chaos, a voice hissing when she answered, "You're next." Then static. She dropped it, hands shaking, showing Calvin, "They're not done." He nodded, face grim, ordering the mansion locked tight, gates barred, guards tripled, but night fell heavy. A power outage plunging them into black, the hum of generators dead. Jade lit a candle, Malik beside her. "What's that?" he whispered, footsteps echoing outside, slow, deliberate, a shadow shifting past the window. Calvin grabbed his gun. "Stay here," moving to the door, the dark swallowing him. Jade's pulse hammering, Brenda's reach a noose tightening even from a cell. The Brentwood mansion plunged into darkness, the power outage a sudden chokehold, candles flickering as Jade and Malik huddled in the living room, shadows dancing across shattered glass and scorched walls from past attacks. Calvin stood by the door, gun gripped tight, his suit jacket shed, shirt sleeves rolled, eyes scanning the black beyond the windows where footsteps thudded, deliberate and close. Jade's candle trembled in her hand, wax dripping, her sharp mind racing. "They cut the power." Malik nodded, his lanky frame tense, hoodie pulled tight, whispering, "It's her people." The burner phone's threat, "You're next," echoed. Brenda's ghost alive despite her cell. Calvin hissed, "Stay low." Moving to a side window, peering out, security's radios silent, the night thick with menace. Then it broke, a roar splitting the quiet, masked extremists storming from the trees, 20 strong, then 30, black hoods and glinting blades, a radio crackling Brenda's voice, "I'm free and you're done." Jade's stomach dropped. She escaped? Calvin cursed, faked it somehow, as boots smashed the gate, metal screeching, security firing, pops lighting the dark, but the mob surged, relentless. Bullets flew, glass exploding inward, Jade yanking Malik behind the couch. Down. A shotgun blast tore through the door, wood splintering, Calvin diving, returning fire. A scream outside as a figure dropped, blood pooling on the lawn. Ray burst in, vest torn. "They're everywhere." His gun blazing, 2 guards dragging a wounded third, his leg gushing, the air thick with gunpowder and panic. Jade crawled, grabbing a kitchen knife, Malik beside her. "We can't stay here." Calvin yelled, "Upstairs!" But a bomb rocked the foundation, a deafening boom. The west wall collapsing in a cloud of dust and flame, bricks raining, half the house caving. Jade coughed, ears ringing, pulling Malik through debris. "Move!" Calvin staggered up, blood streaking his arm. A graze, not fatal, firing blind as masked men poured in, bats swinging, one cracking Ray's skull, his body slumping. Jade's heart seized. "Ray!" But Calvin shoved them toward the garage. "Go!" The mob chanted, "Jackson's dead." Brenda's radio crackling, "Finish it!" Her voice a whip from some hidden lair. Her prison break a ruse, a transfer hijacked, guards bribed or dead. Jade bolted, Malik stumbling, the garage a dim haven, cars gleaming, her sharp mind locking on escape. She hotwired Calvin's Jeep, keys lost in the chaos, wires sparking under her fingers, Malik whispering, "Hurry." The engine roared, Calvin piling in, gun empty. "Drive." Jade floored it, the garage door buckling as she smashed through. Bullets hailing, pinging metal, a tire blowing but holding. The mob swarmed, a bat shattering the rear window, glass spraying Malik's neck, a thin cut bleeding. his yelp sharp. Jade swerved, tires screaming, Brentwood streets a blur, extremists chasing, trucks peeling after them, headlights glaring. Calvin reloaded a spare clip, firing out the window, a truck veering off, crashing into a tree, flames licking up, but more came, relentless, Brenda's voice fading. Don't let them live. Jade's hands gripped the wheel, knuckles white, weaving through gates past mansions, cops nowhere, the night a war zone. Malik clutched his neck. They're gonna kill us. But Jade shook her head. Not today. Spotting a safe house Calvin owned, a low-slung bunker off Mulholland, 10 miles out. She gunned it, losing the last truck in a sharp turn. Dust clouding their trail, pulling into the safe house garage, doors slamming shut, silence falling heavy. Inside, concrete walls and steel shutters. Jade killed the engine, Calvin staggering. Out, blood soaking his sleeve. We underestimated her. Malik slumped, panting. She's insane. Jade locked the doors, her sharp eyes scanning, finding a first aid kit, bandaging Calvin's arm, her hands steady despite the quake in her chest. How'd she get out? She asked, voice tight, and Calvin shook his head. Money, muscle, hate. She's got a network. The safe house hummed, a backup generator kicking in, lights flickering on, but the siege lingered. Brenda's crew scattered, her voice a ghost in their ears, her reach a noose unslit. Jade sank beside Malik, knife still in hand. We're alive, she said. A hollow win, the mansion a ruin, their lives a thread. Brenda's hate a storm unbroken. Jade Jackson slumped against the concrete wall of the Mulholland safe house, the Jeep's engine ticking cool in the garage, her knife clattering to the floor, hands stained with Calvin's blood from the bandage she'd tied. Malik sat beside her, his hoodie torn, neck cut shallow but clotted, his breath steadying in the dim glow of the generator's lights. Calvin paced, gun reloaded, his arm throbbing under the wrap, face a mask of fury and fatigue, the siege's echoes ringing in their ears. The safe house, a squat bunker hidden by scrub oaks, held strong, steel shutters locked, but Brenda's voice haunted them, her escape a blade twisting deeper. Jade's sharp mind churned. She couldn't pull that alone. Her voice low, piecing the chaos. Calvin nodded. Someone bigger's behind her, his eyes narrowing, scanning the room for answers. Malik shifted. Who'd want us gone? That bad? Jade grabbed her laptop, salvaged from the Jeep, cracking it open, her fingers trembling but swift, diving into Apex's security logs, a hunch burning. Hours ticked, dawn creeping gray through cracks, and she froze. Dad, look, pointing to footage from 3 years back, Brenda meeting a suit in Apex's hangar, grainy but clear. Victor Lang, CEO of Horizon Air, their fiercest rival. Calvin leaned in, breath catching. Lang? Jade scrolled, unearthing emails, encrypted but hacked. Lang to Brenda. Infiltrate Apex, take Jackson down. Racism's your cover. Malik's jaw dropped. She's a plant. Calvin's fists clenched. All this time, a damn pawn. The truth slammed. Brenda hired not for skill but sabotage. Her hate a weapon Lang wielded. Every slight frame-up mob. A chess move to cripple Apex. Jade dug deeper, finding payments. Millions funneled through shell companies. Brenda's cash stash from the flophouse a drop in Lang's bucket. Calvin stood. He wanted my empire, used her to break us. His voice a growl, rage reigniting. The safe house hummed, a fortress holding their shattered world, and Calvin turned. You two, you're Apex now. I'm stepping back. Jade blinked. What? Malik stammered. Us. He nodded, pride cutting through pain. You fought harder than I ever did. Rebuild it stronger. Jade's sharp eyes met his, resolve hardening. Malik nodding slow, a spark flaring. They patched him up, a medic called in discreet, and launched a counterstrike. Jade leaking Lang's emails to the feds, Malik rallying. Apex staff via encrypted calls, their youth a weapon, their scars a badge. Weeks bled into months. Apex rebuilt, a diversity campaign rolling out. Fly equal, crushing Horizon stock. Lang indicted. His empire crumbling under RICO charges. Millions seized. Brenda's fate hit last, a news blip cutting through. The safe house is quiet. Her body found in a San Pedro ditch, a single bullet through her skull. Horizon's cleanup. No loose ends. Her hate snuffed by her masters. Jade stood at the safe house window, Los Angeles sprawling below, dawn painting the city gold. Her voice a whisper. We won. But at what cost? Malik joined her. She's gone. His tone hollow, victory tasting of ash. Calvin watched, arm healed, apex theirs, a legacy forged in fire. But the mansion's ruins, the mob's slurs, the gun to Malik's head lingered, scars no campaign could erase. The saga of Jade, Malik, and Calvin Jackson in Flight Attendant refuses black siblings first-class seats, not knowing their father owns the airline, unveils profound lessons rooted in resilience, unity, and the fight against systemic prejudice. First, it showcases the power of standing firm against injustice. Jade and Malik, despite relentless racial attacks, from Brenda's initial ejection to the mob's violence, never crumbled, their courage a beacon that turned humiliation into triumph. Their story teaches us that adversity, though brutal, can forge unbreakable strength when met with defiance and intelligence. Second, it exposes the insidious reach of racism, not just in overt acts but in orchestrated systems, as Brenda's role as Horizon's pawn revealed a corporate war masked as personal hate. This underscores the need to look beyond surface conflicts to root out deeper corruption. Third, family emerges as the ultimate fortress. Calvin's unwavering support and the siblings' teamwork flip the script on their enemies, proving that love and loyalty can outlast any siege. Finally, the bittersweet ending, Brenda's death and Apex's revival, reminds us that victory over bigotry often comes at a steep cost, demanding vigilance beyond the win. These racism stories aren't just tales. They're calls to action urging us to confront bias head-on, whether in the skies or on the ground. So what's your take? Have you faced a moment where standing up changed everything? Drop a comment with 1 if you fought back like Jade, or 2 if you think Brenda's fate was justice served. Hit like if these racism stories fuel your fire, subscribe for more raw truths, and share to spread the fight. Thanks for riding this roller coaster with us. Here's to building a world where no one's judged by their seat, their skin, or their spirit.